Hey folks, Bevan with Let's Level Up here, and today I'm going to show you Pack-O Game 2. This is a series of small games about the size of a pack of gum each, that each has a lot of game packed into a small box, designed to be, either carried around in your pocket or just a little game, but each one comes with its own rules that also fit in the thing, front and back for each one. And the rules are a lot more detailed than I expected them to be. The games are a lot more detailed than I expected them to be, and I've really had fun with the ones that I've played so far. In Pack-O Game 2, which by the way is up on Kickstarter right now and has already funded, you have a game called Gym, G-Y-M, like kids in a gym in school. So, as in farming. Orc, like the big ugly things in The Hobbit, and a game called Rum. And those are the base games in Pack-O Game, and I believe that most of, if not all of the Kickstarter options, there's actually stretch games that come along with it. And I didn't have a chance to try out any of those, but I believe those are included as well. Just check their Kickstarter page. Each one of these is basically, here is Orc. This is the whole game of Orc. Is these little plastic cards. Or if they're not plastic, they're laminated paper. But one way or the other, I was really happy that they seem to be of good quality. They feel like it's just like a plastic sheet. So I mean that's going to last a long time. There's no way those are going to get tore up, which is something I was a little worried about before I opened the box. I'm thinking, it's just this small little game. Surely it's going to be made, cheaply, but it's not. That's a neat game. I know I can't really show you the texture of it, but it's a well-made little card there. And there's not much to it. I mean, the whole thing, obviously, the whole Orc game fits in this little gum-sized box, and all it is these cards and this rule sheet. So each one of them is about the same. For Orc specifically, all of your cards are the same. They are or not the same, but it's the same type of card. You have two different colors, and then one side has two orcs on it and one has one, and then on the other side it's just the back of the card, which is a spear. And all of the I think there's two different ways these cards are played. Some of them will be played horizontally between the two players, and those represent territories. So you have a white territory and a yellow territory, and for those you actually wind up with, let me see if I can get you some here. So here's white, yellow, purple, green, and then we would need a red and blue one, which I'm not able to locate yet. But you want to have each of 6 colors represented, and then between each one you wind up with a stack of 4 of these face down. So it doesn't really matter which ones you pick as long as all 6 colors are represented. So in other words, each card has 2 colors on it, so you wouldn't want to reuse a card that had either any colors that are already set down. And then you just play the other ones down, and the whole game is it's kind of a drafting style game where you pick up little orc cards that show a certain team of orcs. So this is 2 yellow orcs, this is 1 yellow orc, and then you and your opponents are each attacking the territories that are on the table. So if we had a yellow and red territory out there, I could attack this red with any color that's not red and any color that my opponent is not using. And then I would always use that same color. So if I placed a blue set of orcs down onto this red territory, like I was attacking it with the blue clan of orcs, then my opponent, if I played that first, my opponent could not play a red because it's a red territory, and he cannot play a blue because I'm already attacking with a blue clan. So he could pick any other of the 6 colors. So purple, yellow, green, or white. And that's pretty much the whole game. The idea is you're each attacking these other orcs' territories or their camps, and then trying to defeat your enemy and be the one, I guess, to hold the most territory at the end. And some of the cards will have a yellow 2 orc, and some have a yellow with 1 orc on them, and So you kind of have to decide. Each card has a 2 and a 1. So this has 2 yellow and 1 white. This one has 2 yellow and 1 purple. And some cards, might have 2 purple and 1 yellow. And you have to decide how you want to play. So is it more important for you to get your yellow down, or is it more important for you to save up and have the higher value with the 2 purple on that card? So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's really neat, and especially for being in such a small package, I was really impressed. So is about gardening, and instead of being just kind of like a strip of terrains in front of you, it's kind of interesting. Let me see if I can get the instructions out here, and I'll show you a little diagram. But so the way you set it up is it actually kind of winds up looking like, if you can see that, it actually kind of winds up looking like either a flower, or maybe you could think of it as a windmill or something like that. So there's some theme there as well. Each of the games is distinct. It's not like the same game or a very similar game with a reskin. Each one is its own game, and I thought that was neat too. I mean, you're doing so much with the small amount that's in these boxes, and without rehashing or reusing the mechanics that you've used before. At least from the games that I was able to see, each one is distinct and interesting in its own right. And to get them all, they come as a pack, at least in the Kickstarter, with extra games. It's really cool. So I've kind of described Orc, and I've told you a little bit about So, but on the table I have Jim, which is the first of these that I played. And the idea of Jim is that you are it's like recess, and there's a bunch of activities going on. So you have lifting weights, and you have there's different things. Like one looks like lifting weights, one is rope climbing, there's kickball, I guess that's table tennis, football, and basketball. And so these different events are going on, and different kids are set up, kind of like, maybe more like PE than recess. And the kids have been set up by their coaches into different squads, and one squad is lifting, and one squad is climbing the rope, and one squad's playing basketball. But the coaches can't watch everything, so the kids are getting a little bit rowdy. And the idea is you have your team of kids, and the other people have their team of kids, and you want to have the higher score at the end. And the way that you get the highest score is on each of these events. 4 of the 6 of them will be in play, and that is determined, and I'll explain that on the table. But 4 of these 6 events will be in play, and let's say that at the end of the game, I had 4 points worth of students on my side, and my enemy had 2 points worth of students on their side for this color, for purple. Then I would have a total score of 2 for this event. And then I total up my total score between all the events, they total up their total score, and whoever has the highest score wins. So it's kind of like, I want my kids to be overwhelmingly better at the events. I can lose an event or 2, but if I did really well in the other 2 events and I only allowed my opponent to win by a point or 2 on the 2 events that I lost, I'm still the winner because I came out ahead overall. That said, we've discussed Jim enough. Let me take you to the table and show you the game itself, and hopefully we will have a good time with that. The setup is you take each of the 6 events and line them up. You have to make sure that the little black lines here are all aligned with the events. And then there's 24 kid cards, and here's the 12 that I didn't choose, but I wanted to show you that there's actually 24 of these kid cards, and you shuffle them up and deal 12 of them out onto the table, and the rest are just set aside. They're not used in the game. In those kid cards, there are bullies. So Steven here is a bully. You can tell that by 2 reasons. One, he looks like a bully. His arms are crossed, and he's mad about something. And 2, he has a 1 in kickball here, but then his second number is a black 0. We also have Cheryl, I think that says Dion, and Candace are all bullies. And so they only have a 1 in their event. There's 1 for each, and they have no secondaries. So it's just a black 0. Contrast that with Jayla or Olivia, they have, Jayla has a 4 in lifting and a 1 in table tennis, and Olivia has a 3 in table tennis and a 2 in football. As I kind of mentioned with Orc, some of the events, or some of the cards could be played with a higher value or a lower value, so you might want to hold on to it for the higher value, or you may really need the expedient lower amount just to get some points in a specific event. So that's kind of something to pay attention to. It's important to know because we are going to draft these characters, and that's actually how the game starts out. The active player chooses a face-up kid and takes it into his hand. If the chosen kid was a bully, he can adjust the event schedule. So the event schedule only ever advances. So in other words, you would take one of these events and you would shift it forward with, to align with those black lines. So that's why it matters that the lines are all lined up. These events will only ever shift forward. They'll never go back to the left. And whenever you pick up a kid, or whenever you pick up a bully and you advance the event schedule, you can advance any one event 2 times, or you can advance any 2 events 1 time each. So I could advance this one once, and I could advance this one once. After, so let's say that I picked up Steven when I did that, and then my opponent takes Trisha, I take Henry, opponent takes Louisa, I take Olivia, opponent takes Cheryl, and then my opponent realizes that he's got 2 different cards with purple and no other color really well represented, so he really wants to make sure that purple is one of the events that's chosen. That's kind of what's happening here with these events and advancing them. So I'm going to go ahead and advance purple all the way as far as it will go. So we're pretty sure purple is going to be, the weightlifting is going to be in the running. So then I would take Dion, he's a bully as well, and the cards that I have so far, I don't really have any clear standouts, but I guess I would say that yellow is a little bit ahead. So, and I'm sorry, when he picked up Cheryl, he was going to move lift once, and then he also has 3 in green, so he's going to go ahead and move that once. So, whenever I pick up Dion, I've got a little bit ahead in yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and say, we're already getting a little bit ahead, and I don't want my opponent to have too much choice in what's picked. So I'm just going to move the rope climbing up twice, or maybe that's tug of war. And then my opponent takes Jayla, I take Eduardo, opponent takes Sophia, I take Candace. So because I picked the last bully, I have the last chance to pick up or to change this deal. And I've got a lot in orange, so let's go ahead and move orange forward twice as well. And then my opponent takes Brian. Hopefully it was clear, but I did not, you don't have to pick them in order. I was just doing that because I'm lazy. So we have our 2 teams. Here is my team here on the bottom, and here is my opponent's team right here on the top. So the teams are picked, and then we determine which of these events are actually going to take place. So it's always the ones that are advanced all the way get to go, and then the ones that are advanced, to the second position get to go, and then any that are left get to go, and it's top to bottom. So in other words, we have 1, 2, 3 events that were advanced all the way, and then of the 2 that were advanced all the way, we start at the top. And it's random. You just set them down in whatever order, so there's some randomness there to what happens. So we take these 2 events that were done, and we turn them over, and they're coaches. All of these events have a coach on the back. So we have Coach Wilson and Coach Lee. Doesn't matter at all, but there they are. So then you would take your events, and I'll take my guys down here, and my opponent will put his up here. You take your events and you spread them out between you, like so. And we'll go ahead and move the coaches down and then just slide these over a bit where they're on the camera. So there's our events, and then we just start playing. And the idea is, if I set down a kid that is not a bully, I just set them down on a spot. I will set a kid down, and then I may do the event of where I put him down. So the orange is pick a kid and then give one back. So the way that works, and it's all again listed out here on the back. The orange, you randomly pick a kid from an opponent's hand and add it to your hand. Then give a kid from your hand back to your opponent. So if you randomly grabbed one, like let's say I randomly grabbed Louisa, and she doesn't fit my strategy very well, I could just give Louisa back. But whatever it is that I give back to my opponent, they must take that kid, even if they didn't want it, obviously. So if I play a kid that's not a bully, I place him down somewhere. It doesn't matter where you can place him anywhere, but he contributes his orange value to this orange card, and that's how you determine at the end which team is going to win, is who has more of the color of the event. So Eduardo is down, and then that's the end of my turn, and my opponent gets to set somebody down. So he's going to take Brian, and he's going to place Brian right here on the lift card, and then he can choose to lift any kid, which has a footnote of replace it. You would choose any kid at an event and add it to your hand, then replace it with a kid from your hand. So if he wanted to, let's say he doesn't really want this bully for some reason. We'll do, he doesn't want, he's already doing really well here at purple. He doesn't really need Trisha to do purple, so he's going to give up Trisha. He's going to pick up Eduardo and lift it, and then he's going to replace it with Trisha. Note that he picked up one off my side and replaced it on my side. So he's just taken away the 3 points I had toward the basketball event, and he's given me nothing. And at the same time, he's picked up a card that he puts into his hand, and he could then play later on onto the basketball card or whatever he wants to do. So that's pretty much how you do it. The only thing that's that still needs to be discussed is if you set down a bully. So if I played Dion here, I would play him over here onto the, we'll call it tug of war, because he's worth 1 point there. And then I may use the event's ability to swap two kids across sides, and then I may choose to call a coach over. So once the game is over and you've got all your cards all arranged, you go to total up. And what you would do is you would just compare the total score on one player's side of the color of the event with the other. So here in kickball, the opponent has a 3 to my 1, so that's 2 points. In basketball, the opponent has a 3 to my 1, so that's 2 more points. Here, my opponent has a total purple score of 8 in lifting to my 0, so that's 8 total there, putting us at 12. And then over here, I had an uncontested 4, so I had 4 points to his 12. He won the game because overall he won. Even if, let's say, somehow I had taken, let's say we had switched these, and we had switched these. So I won kickball with 2, I won basketball with 2, and I won this with 4. Well, he still has an 8 here. So we just tied. Even though I won a majority of the events, it's the total score at the end, and score again is derived by difference between your score in that event's color versus the opponent's score in that event's color. So that's the whole game. It plays fairly quickly, especially once you know the rules. It's very simple. The whole thing is made out of basically 2 different types of cards. You have kid cards and you have event cards. So you know, sure, there's bullies and normal non-bully kids, but it's all the same thing. And I really liked that. I really liked that again in Orc. All the cards in Orc are basically the same thing, but they're used in different ways. You turn them in different directions, and now one's a territory and one is an attacking group of orcs. I really like this Paco game deal. I had never heard of Paco Game 1, but I'm going to go check it out. I would say get on that Kickstarter. I just checked it right before. I'm not sure when this video will go up, but right now there's 17 days left, and it looks like there's some pretty neat stretch goals there. So go check it out, give it a whirl, and see if you can get into Paco Game. Thanks, guys.